Into today's discussions on change. Change is interesting. The only thing that is not constant is change. Anything Susan, anything Jane, anything Rajput. Sometimes I just put you on the spot.
Catherine.
Yes.
It was a great session yesterday. I learned a lot.
Okay. Learned a lot. Thank you, Rajput. Yeah. Susan?
Yeah, it was a great session. And I would say that retaining of workforce is very critical for any institution. And once you succeed in doing that, it would mean that the institution knowledge and capabilities and skills are retained within. So I think for management, its role is just to see that this key or very important workforce are motivated and have the morale to work so that they're able to stay within, and you don't lose it to your competitors. Yeah.
I like what you have said. You've actually narrowed down to saying that we don't lose institutional knowledge, and it's perpetual. We're able to reference back. And the thing is that the longer we stay, the more we also pass that knowledge to the people who are coming. So there's always knowledge that we need to pass on. Some knowledge is very tacit, some knowledge is written, so it depends on how we also document that knowledge. I think it's very important to document the milestones of the organization so that whoever comes in, be able to follow. Thank you. Okay, great. Anybody else? Great learnings, great takeaways. Welcome, Jane. Welcome, Collins. Welcome, Jean. Anybody else? Great takeaways.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, Jane.
Thank you, Catherine. For yesterday's session, I loved it. It was I was just taking in everything. And one of the things that stood out for me is that in the organization, people should feel indispensable to the organization. Basically, somebody needs to really sit down and have very good reasons why they're leaving and why not stay. Yeah, so that for me was a real takeaway, and everything else I learned a lot. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the session today.
Fantastic. Yeah, Santi. Yeah, we should feel indispensable for the organization so that we reflect back. So where am I going? Where am I going again? What has happened that I am going? So things. And of course, we talked about avoidable attrition and unavoidable attrition. And we looked at the metrics, and I say very important quadrants, the 4 quadrants for us to be able to see what where we are at as an institution and start collecting the data. Data is powerful, and data informs a lot of decisions that we can make. Yeah. So that's important. Anybody else before we start today's session? We'll try and make it quick. Collins, if you can mute.
Catherine.
Yes.
Yes, I was looking at retention, and I would say it's a cost-cutting mechanism. And looking at my institution, there are a group of people who have stayed for long in the institution, and I've been able to amass this knowledge and skills. And when we are organizing trainings, most of the time we don't look outside. We get these people who are within to train the staff. And you see now we will not pay them because they are people who have volunteered we can do this. We are very skilled in this. We don't need to look outside. And when they train, they discharge very professional content. And you see staff, wanajengeka, they get the skills. So it is cost cutting. Try to retain as much as you can and build so that you can use the internal skills just to build the the staff within, instead of looking outside.
Exactly. They've got good examples, they've got good experience. Then you cut costs in outsourcing, third party, what do you call it, facilitators. Now you see Susan, you work as out of a job. That's not good, you know.
Once in a while, Catherine, once in a while.
Anyway, I'm joking, but it's very important that we use internal resources to be able to push the business as much as we can. And I keep on saying, guys, you know, one of the things is that work on your networks. And when you don't have budgets, call on your networks to come and give you those services. I keep on saying that sometimes you just have to go out of your way and say, Lydia is very good at, let's say, leadership trainings. I've taken Lydia as an example on this panel. And Susan knows Lydia. Lydia, come, you know, facilitate for me this training. I have no budget, but our networks, kindness begets kindness, isn't it? Tender wema nenda zako. You get what I mean? You must work on your networks and leverage on them, not to take advantage, definitely, but sometimes you just have to tell your friend, hey, we are struggling here. I don't have a budget, I'm challenged, but are you able to come for a 3-hour session and pin the point home and leave us thinking and reflecting? So work on those kind of networks and see what you can get out of them. So it's important to build each other like that, and you'll be the blue-eyed boy, the blue-eyed girl in the organization. Okay, great. So let us start. Welcome, Meshach. Who wants to pray for us before we start? Anyone who would like to volunteer to pray for us as I bring up my screen?
I can pray.
Thank you, Jane.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for another indeed beautiful day and beautiful time as we come together, as we learn together. We thank you for the opportunity. We ask you to be with us, help our minds, open our minds to new ideas, grant us favor in everything we're going to do in our jobs, that we will do better and we make our organizations great. We thank you for this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jane, for that. It is nice to the day in God's hands. Okay, so today's change. What change is coming your way? What change has come your way at individual level, at personal level, at professional level, even at country level? We're expecting some change in August, isn't it? Maybe we'll have, definitely, we'll have a change in government because the current president will be, is it retiring or what happens? I mean, they are not eligible for re-election, so he can't come vying and asking us to vote for him. So of course, the people, whoever wins the elections will form a new government, new thing. So there's always change. There's always change here and there. You know, today morning I have seen on the social media that the government has said, is it the government, which is wrong interpretation, that there will be no bottle feeding of little children. Have you seen that that going round and people are up in uproar and whatever it is? It's whatever, a change. And of course, it's not true. They just want to say that you need to breastfeed as much as possible, 6 months for maternal health, good maternal health. After that, you can transit to the bottle, and not to say that you cannot whatever. So it's been wrongly interpreted. So change, yeah. So what is change? How does change come about? Why does change cause such anxiety and stress around people and organizations and the country at large? There's change world over. Now the dollar is at 105. Things are extremely expensive. I don't know whether we are all blaming it on Ukraine, the change of Russia and the beef that they have with Ukraine, you know. So there are always changes in the world, always changes. And how do we anchor those changes and make sure that we are running ahead? So any great expectations out of this seminar, out of this webinar for this morning? Anything that you really want to make sure that you peak and concentrate on and is a must-have? is a must-have, is a must get? Anything that you would like to pick? Okay, great. I'm sure we can. You feel free to unmute yourself and let me know, or drop something on the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Catherine, I think what I'm looking forward to this morning is most of the time when you introduce change in an organization, there is kind of resistance. So for me, I would want to know what can be done so that there is that seamless integration of those new aspects into the institution without much resistance or blocking it, kind of. Yeah, for me, that is what I'm looking for.
Thank you. So to tone down the resistance, for people to understand and appreciate change and why the change. So when we look at change, and I want you to look at this picture and interpret it, and to see all these three pictures on the slide. Why do we always think about change, and it's at institutional level, and we think, oh my gosh, what's happening? Why is change coming? Why are we always thinking that it's going to affect us? Not negatively, let me not use that word, negatively, but it's going to upset the norm and what we know, our comfort zone. It's going to upset our comfort zone. Gives us a lot of anxiety around that. So we must also be able to communicate that change from the very beginning, those subtle signs, if that is going to happen. How do we begin? And how do we make sure that people are working with us, and by the time we get there, people already know that it was coming and this is what we need to do? So that is important, and that is what I would like us to highlight and this morning, as to when we think that we are going to bring changes in the organization, big changes, small changes. Someone needs to mute. Is it then? Someone needs to mute. Then please mute. So we need to make sure that is happening. And by the time we bring in the change, then people are excited, and they don't feel that it has been just put on them by force, and they were not participating. When you look at the pictures, then please mute and make me a host so that I can be able to call them. Can I mute him? Okay, yes, I can. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at these three pictures. What do you see? What jumps into your mind? Don't overthink it. Don't overprocess. Any pick any?
Catherine, what I'm seeing here, especially in the middle picture.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that one. I'm seeing employees of an institution who are comfortable, or rather who are in some sort of comfort zone. And they are wondering why do you want to destabilize us? We were okay where we were. When you see that the farthest end wordings, what was wrong with the way we were, as in the comfort zone where they were, they were okay, and which is something that is really typical when it comes to change. We are really okay where we are, so we really need to be convinced why we should move from our current state to the new state that we want. That is what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. So, and sometimes people are not brave enough to make those to ask, from the beginning. They are just walking, and by the time they get here, there's hue and cry. And thank you, Susan, for highlighting it, because this is exactly what happens in an organization, isn't it? You start, you begin, you transition, and then at the end, people are asking you, how did we get here? Was I part of this? Was I consulted? you know, and what we said yesterday is that everybody is an employee of the organization. Nobody has greater rights than the other. People just have greater responsibility over the other. When we all understand that, from the CEO to the janitor, then everybody has the same rights in this organization. That I am fairly treated. I can make my contribution. I have the rights, and rights means that the same policy will be applied to the CEO is the same policy that will be applied to the janitor. That's what I mean. Rights are different. I mean, you don't have the rights, maybe in your organization, you only have rights to sign checks up to 100,000. The CEO has rights to sign checks up to 500 million. You get what I mean? So those are responsibility rights. I have more responsibility as the CEO compared to you, who's the janitor or office assistant, your responsibility, whatever. So even as you go high the rank, that's the only thing that makes us different as employees in the organization. But in terms of governance and in terms of fairness, everybody is on the same whatever. So when we remember that everybody has the same right, then there should be no squabbles. There should be no egos coming to play. There should be nobody who feels that are more entitled to be here than the other. But unfortunately, as we say, people are complex, organizations are monsters, and we might never be able to have that perfect scenario of what we think it is. But constant communication, airing our grievances, airing our opinions and our views for us to be heard. So that's something that we should always preach along, okay? So someone else, thank you, Susan, for putting it into perspective. Thank you very much. Next, someone take the same, whichever you want to take. Anyone who has seen anything different?
From the middle picture, I can see a lot of uncertainty. I can see when you look at these questions, what's going to happen to me? It's can see people having a lot of questions within themselves, asking and wondering what is going to be the end of this. What's going to be the outcome of this stage?
It's true.
And that's yes, and that needs to be taken care of.
True, that needs to be taken care of, and someone must own that process, and someone must answer those hard questions. Whoever it is, the person who brought in the change must be able to answer those questions. Very true, Lydia. Someone else? Someone else?
To add on what Lydia said,
yeah,
there is that question, who decided? I think this is a very important question, and it brings out that it paints a picture that it was kind of a one-man show. No communication was done here. That's why these people are wondering who decided this, as in I wasn't involved. I did not take part in this. I'm not aware kind of situation. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that just goes to show that one-man show is where strikes begin, murmuring, and it escalates and it becomes fully blown. And you just wonder, well, I mean, the union was not consulted. We'll down our tools, you know. And sometimes if it is so bad, people will just down their tools immediately. And of course, if it's a union, they will give you notice and say, this is not what is on the, maybe on the CBA, and we need to decide, and we were not involved. So it just creates tension, unnecessary tension that should have been resolved from the very beginning. Yeah. So thank you both for that. Anything else we see here? Ladies and gentlemen, anything that we can see? Anybody else? Please remember to mute yourselves if you're not working. So this picture of a lady, what does it paint for you? This paint.
For me, I'm seeing a lot of anxiety, Catherine, in that photo with faces. Like it's a lot of just fear of unknown. There is frowning of faces, like this thing, we are not for this kind of a reaction.
Yeah, thank you. You can see, wow, okay, this is where it is right now. And then after that, look at these reactions, those ones of this one, angry. What the heck? What has happened all of a sudden? Why wasn't I involved? Those ones of, and look at this kind of a face, thinking, and where is my defense? I want to be defensive. I want to say it as it is. This one is, okay, let me hear what you guys will have to say. This one is pensive, non-committal, do whatever you want to do. There's nothing. So people go through different phases of these changes. If after all, there's nothing I can do here. I am not able to get myself out of this. So I will have to look for other solutions as I stay here as I look out, unfortunately. This one, change. It's my do nothing vision. Mtadu, you've already agreed on the change. What do we see there?
Maybe what I can say.
Yeah.
This particular person has decided you have not included me, and really I'm not, you want to give me things that I'm not part of. I have not been party to how it began and where it's going. So I will not cooperate.
It's true.
Yes, so there's that lack of cooperation, already resistance. They are going to resist it.
Yeah. Completely. Yeah. I will resist it until you look for another way to try and get me into this vision of yours, or into this change aspect of yours and stuff like that. So it's very important for us to know that what we do to people. You see, even this guy almost seems to be shouting out at her, and her, she's just decided, you know what? This is me.
Yeah.
This is how I roll for now, and what is going to happen. Okay, great. So let's go ahead, and thank you for that. So you can see that workplace change management is essential, it's important, and how people will react is very differently to how they want to, whatever. Let me talk to Dan. Dan, how are you?
Yes.
Please mute and make me host. Please mute your mic. We can hear you speak. Thanks. Appreciate.
My God.
Okay. So what are our expectations for today from this program? We look at the where, we look at the when, we look at the how, we look at what, and we will look at.
I'm very sorry.
That's okay. We had you talk to Njoroge, and we had all the conversations you were having. That's okay, then don't worry. And make me go so that I can continue. Okay, great. So there we are. So, and this happens all the time. So those are the objectives for us to understand. And I have had you say it, understand change and its importance to an individual and the organization. Remember, one of the things that is a constant is that we must carry people along. And when I come to work with you, I become part of that organization. So who's an organization, by the way? What's an organization? I'd want to pause there and say, who's the organization? What is an organization? And who makes the who makes the organization? You get what I'm asking? Anyone? People will say organization is me and you. Who's an organization? And anyone? Please let's share.
Catherine, I would say an organization is a group of people or persons who have come together with a common vision and a mission. And without me and you, or without me and that person, there's no organization. So organization is me and you, and we must have a common purpose.
Exactly. And that's true. So where do we lose it? And organization seems to stand on its own all of a sudden, and then and then people stand on their own on the other side. At what point do we lose it? Isn't it? We start addressing the organization as if it is not me and you, all of us here who came to make this happen. So we refer it as, let's say we were all working at ACHRP. We all came together, said we want to create great content training programs for people in Kenya and beyond, for example. That's our key mandate. And we make great content. And then all of us work in this organization. But all of a sudden, we always refer it as ACHRP. At what point do we become separate? Welcome everybody who has joined. Feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. Even me, I don't know that one. Even me and I, myself and I don't know when we all become different. Yeah. I guess it becomes too large, too big. It stands on its own. It's got its own delivery, the deliveries, deliverables that it has to achieve. It's got a strategy. It's got a culture. It's got its own resources. It's an enviable outfit. And all of a sudden, it seems just on its own. But remember, it's who brought it together. It's the people. Whether they've joined today or whether they joined 10 years ago, they can still continue being part of the organization. So all of a sudden, the employees or the people who work there seem to be sucked in all these other pillars: the money, the resources, the primary business, the strategy, the culture. And sometimes we forget ourselves that we are the living beings, because all those other ones are not living, but they're executed by people. So I would like us to always think an organization, yes, stands on its own, delivers, makes profit so that we can be paid and move on how we should be moving on. But remember that it's people who make it. So primary responsibility number one is the people. That is how the content of the training will be. Please, if I go too fast, remember that you can always time in and ask a question or make a reaction. Okay. So what are my roles and responsibilities? You see, what is my main job purpose? Do we understand? You know, there are many questions. What is my key responsibilities? What's my main purpose, my main job purpose? I see in adverts, purpose of the job, a big highlight that really summarizes the purpose of the job. Then what are my key responsibilities? Once I understand my role as a HR or whichever role that I hold in my organization. What are the inputs, outputs and input parameters? What am I expected? Once I understand my key roles and responsibilities, what will I be expected to put out? And what are my inputs? Sometimes when people do not understand that, and when changes happen, then we start thinking, oh, what has suddenly happened and what should be done. Okay. So we'll define change management and then we'll go on with that. What is change management? You know, I keep on saying also these sessions, any session you attend, and maybe you are a continuing student If you meet me at ACHP to coach, take you through coaching, you'll meet me. So these things are very important for us. Someone needs to mute. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah. What is change management? How do we define change? What is organizational change? What is the importance of change in life? What are some of the examples? Change of a work. So for me, let me ask you a question. If today you won in SportsPesa, whoever, or you go and buy the charity sweepstake ticket or lottery ticket and you won 300 million, 300 million, pap, what would you do? 300 million, you are the new millionaire in town. What would you do? What would you do? Milka, Sipora, Kipkirui, Mary, what would you do with your 300 million? Meshach, Mohammed, Lydia, Rajput, what would you do? Susan, what would you do with 300 million?
My entire life will change.
Yeah, of course it will change.
Yeah, you buy a Porsche car, buy a house, wardrobe change. I mean, I don't know, Catherine. I don't know. Everything will change. Trust me.
Yeah, everything will change. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? 300 million. I mean, if you use it well, it's a game changer. It's a life game changer. So things would have to, you'd have to think and take a double take and say, oh my gosh, how is this? You know, you might even just say, I quit. And even if you don't like your job, you say, see you guys, it was nice knowing you. You know, stuff like that, not give notice or anything like that. I think it's what it is. For some people, of course, 300 million is loose change. For some of us, it would be like life-changing completely. So I think in terms of changes, in terms of the word change, we need to be cognizant of the fact that there'll be in the personal changes, like let's say you're getting married. That's a big change. You know, you're coming to start life with someone that you don't know. You've fallen in love and you say, well, we can live together. Let's live together and let's start a family. For example, a real good change, exciting change. You move from one job to another. There could be some bit of anxiety, but you're very happy that you are making that change and you have made a decision. You've dotted your I's, you've crossed your T's, and you know that this is a good decision that I am making. You don't know what you find on the other side, but you always hope and pray that things are going to be well. I mean, you are blessed with a child, your family addition, that's a big change. You know, you have to take care of this human being for the rest of their lives. Very beautiful change. You know, you've bought a new home, you know, home is a big ticket item and you're happy. So there are real personal changes that bring personal achievements that bring change, you know, and you've moved from being paid 20,000 to being paid 150,000. That's a big change, you know, and what do you do with those kind of changes? And of course, now coming back to work where you really spend most of your time and changes are about to happen. How do you embrace those changes? So I keep on saying change is inevitable. How we embrace change also is a component of who we are as individuals. We must know ourselves. Emotional intelligence. Have we done many personality tests? There are many for free to understand who we are, how we embrace anxiety, how we welcome change, how we welcome things that are uncomfortable around us. Where do we ask for help? That's the only way. Remember, the one thing that we should never forget is that I'm a partaker of this institution and I'm an individual. So how I show up, how everybody shows up, if we all understand that, we'll be able to embrace the changes. 2 years ago, these are examples that you'll keep hearing, and also yourselves talking about is COVID. It brought a big change at the workplace. Some people were more affected than others. Some people made fortunes out of COVID because then they were in the right industry at the right place at the right time. I'm not talking about the COVID millionaires, whether they were real or not. I'm just talking maybe your industry was one of those who were like the ones who provided internet. I think they did a good job because all of a sudden internet was in demand or something like that. Essential services, they made a lot of money. So, but there were some businesses which were affected and they brought a lot of changes. So those are things that we really need to think about. Me as an individual around change and some of the changes that will be put in the institution and how do I change out of it. So always think 300 million, what would I do about it? Would you first say, put it there for a month? I just think about it. And of course, you'll get all those kind of calls. People from the woodworks, I used to go to school with you. You remember, I used to help you in your worst subject. I was your best friend and we fizzled out. I'm very happy that you won. I saw you won the jackpot. I've had some challenges. Please help me. Those are the kind of calls you'll get, a lot of them, including the one from insurance agencies to put your money to do it. So there will be a journey, the past, the present, and the future around change. So we need to take stock. A journey, so a change is a journey. It's not an event. Of course, we can say it's an event because we say we want to do a job evaluation. That could be termed as an event. I am going to get married. That is an event. You get what I mean? But it will have a past of its own, meeting the person, the past, the dating and whatever, the present where we are, and also how will the future look like? Unfortunately, sometimes we will not know the whatever. Can it be predicted? Can it be managed? Those are some of the things. Can we predict? Yes, maybe we can predict because we can see what other people have done in the past and the outcomes for it. Can it be managed? I think it can be managed. How can it be managed? Sometimes we manage it very well and sometimes we do not manage it very well. It all calls for the kind of communication and communication strategies that we will put around change. Is that okay? So just going on, how do people react to change? So just like passing through a bad news curve, oh no, it can't be true. You can't be serious. Can we sort this out some way, any other way, that's it. After 20 years of service, they want to, isn't it? These are some of the reactions that people get. Am I going to be part of this? Yes, I can live with this. It's not really too bad. You get what I mean? So these are some of the common reactions that we get around when you tell people that there will be changes. Any other that you've had around people and change? Around people and change, what have you had? What have you had? And many more, especially if it is bad news, people react very differently. And the majority of the people who will say, yes, I can live through this, it is not really bad, I actually in the minority. And that's why it's good to know who we are, okay? So what are the paradigms of change? Okay, so we will look at that and just think about rules, the concepts, the assumptions, and the practices. The mental boundaries around whatever. Look, even when we talk about, tell me, when we talk, let's say we all talking about Earth. What are the rules? What are the assumptions? What are the concepts? What are the practices? When I ask you a very simple question, tell me about planet Earth. Tell me about Earth. Just let's talk. Someone will say the Earth is flat, isn't it? And try and convince you why the Earth is flat, isn't it? And then someone will say the Earth is a sphere, because we have seen in geography books and all over that it's like an orbit going round. The Earth is a planet and tell you they're there 9 planets, it's one of the planets of the earth, of the world, and they will convince you, and this is the only planet that has human beings. This is the only planet that people are living, and they are animals and stuff like that. And then someone else will say, okay, fine, it's a planet. And you have that debate. Even people have gone to Mars, people are looking at Jupiter and stuff like that. And the earth is a living being, because this is where, so just how you perceive it at that time, and how you want to argue your case around this question of, let's discuss about earth, what you know about it. You might even know all these other ones, but it really comes to what you're feeling at that time, and what is most valuable for you, and how you want to reference it. Okay, so that's the thing. It's the same. We are going to have a job evaluation. What are some of the rules, concepts, assumptions, and practices that people might come out of it? And I'm saying a job evaluation. I'm assuming maybe majority of us are from HR, in HR. When you say management has approved that we carry out a job evaluation exercise, what are some of the rules, concepts, assumptions, and practices that might come out of the discussion that you will have? Maybe even within your HR team, before even you take it out there, because it's already starting to fly through people. Oh, there's a job evaluation. What are some of the rules? Changamkeni, so that we share, so that we take great learnings. And what are some of the mental boundaries that you will get from your department? Anything that comes to mind? Don't want to be the only one speaking.
Catherine, when you say you want to do a job evaluation, some of the assumptions that would really come from the team is the way people understand job evaluation. They looking at the job, looking at the positions in the institution, and looking at which positions can be merged that are doing similar jobs, that kind of thing. So some of the assumptions in the mind of the staff would be, do these people want to merge positions and lay some of us off? Is my position critical, or it's among these ones that are going to be merged, that kind of thing, and which brings about some sort of fear of unknown within the institutions. Those are some of the assumptions that people would bring out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the assumptions that so you guys are going to rationalize the jobs. You want a flat organization. We've been hearing about lean and flat, and that is what you want to do. So assumptions already, and the assumptions are always the majority. Assumptions are always the majority, and that is where the fear of change starts creeping in. What are some of the rules around job evaluation, concepts, and practices? So the rules are, when you look at a job evaluation, we know there are 2 rules that you would want to be able to have in completion, is that you will get a new grading structure and you will get a new salary structure, isn't it? Those are the rules, and that's the end product of what you want to achieve. And so you'll put rules around that. How is it going to be done and stuff like that? What are the concepts, the compensable factors of job evaluation? And you'll have to let people know what are the most common compensable factors. And there are 7, and we know them. The most ideal that any tool that you will use, whatever practices, what are the practices of a job evaluation? There will be tools and systems that you will have to use, so that you're able to do what? You're able to come up with fairness, who stays, who doesn't stay, and stuff like that. So the assumptions are the ones that we need to concentrate on so that you carry people along. But rules are rules. Of course, you can make rules as you go around, but those are tried and tested. Rules are rules. If we say that in this country, you're not supposed to overlap in traffic, then that's a rule. And if you're found overlapping, there are consequences for it, for example. What are some of the concepts around that? The concepts of job evaluation is that we are going to look at each job as an individual, as a job, and not because the job is held by Catherine. So the concepts of it and how is it done? What are the rules? I mean, what are some of the things that we need to take into consideration? And the concepts are there. Compensable factors around a job. The assumptions are those ones. I'm going to lose my job. They don't like me. Of course, they've been giving me bad evaluation every time. This job is going to be downgraded. Of course, they know who already they want to keep. Many. And practices. What are some of the best practices that we have? What is going to come out of it and stuff like that? So always remember the boundaries around change and what people are going to perceive it as. The most important one is assumptions. Assumptions should be actually discussed so that they don't get out of hand. Any question? If you struggle around the compensable factors, let me know. So refusal to change, establish a pattern of thoughts and feelings. Once it's already been said, what are we doing? So once you tell me that there's going to be change in the organization, and all these things have even been addressed, is that I still refuse to change. I establish a pattern of thoughts and feelings. And those are the things that you need to address as a leader or whoever is in charge of change to allay the anxiety so that you do not lose productivity and your good people do not leave the organization. So that is something that we never think around. We just say change is good. It has to happen, unfortunately. But remember, people have feelings, people have thoughts, and people have to be communicated to for them to buy your change process. So this is some of the things that we need to. So paradigm analysis, different people, different perspectives. Look at what can you see? What can you see? Where do you start from? Someone internalize this for us. All these pictures in terms of different people see things differently. It's how we see things. The job evaluation is coming, or the earth is, let's discuss earth, or let's just discuss change. What do you see? This picture. What do you see in this picture? You see things differently. You can either see a woman or you can see an animal, isn't it? Is that what you see? So people will see things differently. That's what we want to, what we want to see, what we want to understand, is that during change, people will want to see things differently. And people will want to see things differently based on what they think is going to suit them and favor them. And the world is full of information and stimuli, it's full of information, and I will go out looking for that information to defend my position. And then I'll opt for a new idea or a new perspective, again, to suit my need and suit my idea and for me to be able to push it through. That's the thing. They could be, someone is saying things differently, the organization is saying things differently, but I will want to push my idea and to see what it is. So that's why it is important for you to see, how do you see it? How does the organization see it? And how are we going to bring it together so that we can understand? Finally, when people understand the paradigm flexibility, is that, okay, fine, it has happened. How much flexible should I be around this change? And then after that, self-actualization. After all it has happened, they've pulled me along or they did not pull me along, but the self-actualization which makes me happy is change your perspective to see beyond, to see the good, that even if we are doing a job evaluation and my position might be downgraded, or my position might stay the same, or my position might fall off completely from the organization, what is in it for me? Well, the bad news is that I might have to lose my job. But is it the end of the world? Perhaps not. And I start thinking, okay, fine, what can I do? They've been supportive, they have been fair, they have communicated. My job might be left where it is. Am I happy to have a job? Yes. Would I have liked it to be upgraded because of what I think I do? Whatever it is. No. Am I happy? Was it transparent? Was it fair? Yes, it was. So you start thinking the self-actualization around my circumstances. As long as there is no unfairness to me, then I should be able to exercise flexibility and again, agree to see the perception, the prospects to see beyond the self-actualization and what has been brought into the picture. So changes will go through different stages, and for you to accept that sometimes it might not suit you, but sometimes when it suits you, then you're happier. But when it doesn't suit you, was it fair? That's what we want to see. Okay. Moving on, the paradigms. Yeah. Martin Luther, people who are. You want to see people who are paradigm pioneers. We know Martin Luther brought in very new perspective of what it is, and people who imagine new possibilities. Are you that person? Spot new opportunities, adapt old ideas and information, change existing practices, plan for new order, and take the necessary actions. Those are the people that you want to see in an organization. That everybody should be able to see change as imagining new possibilities. Around COVID, this change, but what did we do? What did we see? We saw people being very agile and being very creative in making sure that they could survive, and they want to see new things, and then they take the necessary action. Theoretical. So we also go and say that, are you a paradigms person? And if you can answer this question, what is it you are doing today, which if you were to start doing, would change the way you work for the better? Think about, answer this question. Take just a minute or two to answer this question. What is it you are not doing today? If you would start doing, would change the way you work for the better. What are you not doing today, someone? Tell us. Anyone who would like to share with us? Anyone who would like to share with us? Are you a paradigm pioneer? Okay, great. I'm sure I have to stick it to the end of the, then we can have that discussion as we go along. Is that okay? So we identified the goals for change management. So why is change important to an individual? Why is change important to an individual? It can be, we can have as many reasons as we are in this webinar. Someone please share why change is important to an individual. Hey guys, allow me not to be the one talking through and reading through the slides.
Catherine.
Yeah.
For me, when change is like introduced, it brings in new things. So for me, I would say change is important for me because as that change comes, it would mean that it brings in good things like maybe innovation or new skills and new ideas or new opportunities, something that is different that was not there in my current state. I want to move there. So for me, I would say it is a move to a state that will really, a challenging state, yes, a challenging state, because I am expecting something new there. If it's skills, if it's innovation, yeah, something that is going to like challenge my mind. Yeah.
Okay, something to challenge your mind, to stimulate, to get you to the next you'll be able to learn maybe new skills and stuff like that. Yeah, very true. Someone else? Someone else? Seek financial advice, okay. The area of, maybe you can explain that. Kirui? Okay, so there are many reasons as to why we should identify importance of change to an individual. When leaders or managers are planning to manage change, there are 5 key principles that we need to keep in mind. Different people react differently to change, isn't it? Oh no, I cannot, this is not going to be it. And some people really get to even to be as to the level of threatening the people who are going to make the change. It can get to that level. So you need to understand people and their reaction around that change. And some people will actually get depressed and they will never get out of it. So change is something that is as big as someone's life, especially if you're going to touch on their core being. Some people, maybe this is the only job that they ever have. This is the job that is everybody relies on them at their home. And if you let them go, this is something that is going to be very detrimental to them. So it's important to understand that different people react differently to change. Principle number 2, everyone has fundamental needs that they have to be met, whether psychological needs, spiritual needs, physical needs, emotional needs, whatever needs need that someone needs to meet. We need to understand that everybody has fundamental needs that they have to be met. And it's not always around financial needs. No. The need for belonging. People identify themselves with jobs. I'm sure you have met people, and the first time before you become very close and acquainted to one another, you have saved them, like maybe Catherine of ACHRP, isn't it? For you to remember maybe where they work. And for the longest time possible, even when we get to interact and become best of friends, you will still refer to me on your phone book, Catherine ACHRP, isn't it? That's how it is. People identify themselves with the jobs or what they have as individuals. And when you remove that, they become bare. And they don't feel that they belong and they need. So it's important for you to know that everyone has a fundamental need that needs to be met. Principle number 3, change often involves a loss and people go through the loss curve. So loss, I think I have, I'll check and maybe share with them things that people, the gravity, I think someone did a survey of 100 things that are very significant to people and place them in order of importance of loss. I mean, the loss of a loved one, very, very top of the list. Loss of a spouse, children, parents, gravitated like that. Loss of income, that's income from wherever, your business, your work. I think the other one was loss of good health, loss of whatever, things that we know. And the loss will come with a loss curve. And then we have incomes, the 5 stages of grieving, loss of a job, denial, acceptance, all those things. And then the 4th principle, expectations need to be managed realistically. You're losing your job, Catherine, tomorrow. You must manage those expectations. What does that mean for you? We are giving you 1 month's notice. What does that mean for you? That we are going to, for every year worked, we are going to pay you for 15 days for every year worked. You get what I mean? And then you come and say, realistically, why don't you pay me 1 month for every month worked? You say, we don't have a budget. And we would like to, but we do not have a budget. Realistically, you will have to return all the equipment that you use to work with, and maybe all your personal things are stored in the work laptop. You get what I mean? So we are starting to put reality into perspective, because this is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, we are going to go through that transition. And how do we transit you? You know, reality expectations. You don't have another job, but unfortunately, from Monday, you will not be required to come to the office. So manage those expectations realistically. Finally, fears have to be dealt with. Who deals with the fear? It is the person, unfortunately, and sometimes organizations do not give the help or try and assist the person to deal with the fears. We've communicated, we've exited you, so what is it? You know, ask people, what is the worst fear? The worst fear is that I have only savings for a month, this money that you are giving me. What's the worst fear? I will not have a medical cover, and we have a pre-existing illness in my family. What's the worst fear? Is that I will be seen as a loser in the society when I say that I'm looking for a job. Address those fears, and this, you know, the 5 principles people can go through emotions differently. It's not to say that I will still react to fear differently at the very last stage. You get what I mean? So it's not like we've communicated, we've done everything. Of course, if there's a systematic way, and I'm taking one of the one which is very common, is there fear of losing a job at the workplace. Even retirement, just think of basic retirement. What happens at retirement? Even when you give people 1 year notice or 6 months notice as a common best practice, people will still come and negotiate with you and tell you, no, Catherine, I don't want to go home. And when you ask them why they don't want to go home, what is always their reason for not wanting to retire? What is the key principle of people not wanting to retire to go home? What is the one thing that they always say? What is the one thing that people always say? I don't want to retire. I'm not ready for retirement. Either they are not ready for retirement. They don't know what to do with their time. Leave alone that I have not saved enough to go home. That's the least of their worries, is that I don't know what to do with my time. I don't want to go. You know, that is always. So it's important for us to prepare people. Anything else that you would like to add? Importance of change to an individual and planning change. Okay. So change management issues need to be clear at the start of the project, so that appropriate activity plans and roles and responsibilities can be established and assigned. Here are some of the key issues. Is there a compelling reason as to why we are bringing the change? You know, importance of change to the organization. Is there a compelling reason as to why we are bringing in the change? Who are the owners and the sponsors of this change? You know, we always think, oh, it's always management. Sometimes sponsors of the change can be the janitor from the bottom going up. Will they actively promote the change and apply pressure as required or as needed? What are the populations involved? How can we encourage them to act in a way which will support the project objectives or the change objectives? What style of participation will work best? How can we communicate these messages to the target population or to the target group? You know, is there a compelling reason as to why we need to change? What are some of the compelling reasons that can be brought about in the organization? What are some of the key big ticket items that organizations go through change? What are some of the changes that your organization has gone through in the recent past? Let me put it like that. And what did you do about it? Someone please share changes in your organization and how you went about it. Jane, Meshach, I'm just calling people from Lillian. Haven't heard your voices.
Maybe I can say something.
Yes.
The beginning of the year, we lost one of our senior managers in the organization who had been here for a long time, and it hit people. People took it hard, and I think what happened was just giving people time to deal with the issue, talking about it, getting involved in organizing the whole funeral and all, and it helped people like come to terms with the loss. So that was a major change, because this has been someone who has been there, a very senior position, and this person is no more. You've gotten used to how this person does things. So now there's also the change of the new person coming in, or the new people coming in that position. So you are still at that place where, okay, getting used to new style of leadership. Yeah, so I can share that's one major change that I've seen, and we are still in the mix of trying to, deal with it and get to the transition to a new season.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen, for sharing, and Poleni for your loss. Never easy, especially anyone in the organization whom you have worked with. Some major changes around top management. If they were very instrumental, of course, the people will take it differently, and people will be looking with a lot of sense of, show us what's going to happen. You've got big shoes to fit, and sometimes they might just be standing there at the corner to see what you're going to do. So how are you carrying people along that change, leaving that legacy and showing people that we need to, the change needs to happen and help us with the change. So two things are happening, is that there's a big loss in terms of that person will never come back. But again, people are looking at you and saying, how are you going to mainstream this again to be where we are here? Someone else? So double tragedy, unfortunately, Jane, that you have to deal with. Someone else? Change that you have gone through your organization and how you're dealing with it? Referencing all these key issues. Maybe some of them, yeah. Someone would like to share? Big change in your organization?
Catherine?
Yes.
Mine is was a change in, it's not recent, 2015, but change in leadership.
Yeah.
And the CEO that was leaving was somebody who had led the organization for like 24 years, like so. Yeah. And this is a guy of approaching 60, and the incoming CEO was under 40. Now this the other regime was a regime of in regards to communication and that kind of thing. It was like you print the emails and he notes on the emails, and then you go back as the admin, you respond. Not computer literate, if I may put.
Yeah.
The incoming CEO is tech savvy. He responds to his emails, no printing, that kind of thing. So when that transition was happening, I'm telling you, Catherine, it was chaos. In fact, the admin was just saying, Susan, this CEO types his own emails. I'm going to be rendered jobless because she was used to printing, bringing it to the CEO, he writes it, he goes back, She goes back, she types it. But this one does its own things. In fact, the first thing that it did was like, Lucy, don't print my emails. I'll be responding on my emails and that kind of thing. So, and then the other regime, there were people in the organization who were used to some sort of how things are done. Bio. But this one now was, it's a young tag. Wants things to be done this way, that kind of thing. I'm telling you, Catherine, in fact, many people just voluntarily resigned. They felt, speed, apana, this is just too fast for us. Let me just go, without telling them to leave or something, they just left. So I felt that transition really brought a lot of anxiety, because there were things that were done differently from what the other regime was doing. But with time, the people just got used to it, that in fact, this is the best. It's cost cutting, printing, not a lot of printing. It's faster. You respond to emails and that kind of thing, and it's the right thing to do. And with time, people just got into the system, and here we are. Yeah.
Here you are. Yeah, many years later. A big ticket item around change of guard at top level brings a lot of anxiety. Let's call a spade and not a big spoon. So that is one of the things that we need to understand, that a new leader will come with a new broom, sometimes sweep clean. You get what I mean? But again, going back to the discussions we've always had, who is an organization? An organization comprises of me and you, and how do we want to do that? Sometimes it's easier maybe if the promotion is coming from internally, so we already know Catherine's way of working. You get what I mean? And if we are an open organization and we are grooming you to be the CEO, we're already telling you, you already know our culture, and we are emphasizing the business is steady. What you will need to do and bring us together is that you need to take us along, and for us to get to your acceptance internally. It's very good for you if you have the capability, but there is the one thing that you do not do, XYZ, is that you don't take people along, and maybe you don't listen, and maybe you come out as impatient. These are some of the things that we would like you to watch out, so that your transition is easier. So if it's someone who is coming from outside, one of the things, a big change, we are waiting to see who's going to come. I have seen that resistance and people leaving the organization because their style of working is very different from what we have had in the past. So we all need to accommodate each other, the new person who's coming in and the people who are already in the organization. We want to make everybody a success, especially if some of us even interviewed for that job and they did not get it. They might become very resistant and not want this person to be successful. Point number one. So those are things that we need as the board chair to be able to call the board of management, the management team, and come and say, guys, we have made a decision as the board to bring in someone new. Some of you applied for this job. What are the fears that you have? What are some of the frustrations that you have? Let's talk about it so that we continue being a great company like what it is. We are bringing in someone new, and if we have that kind of interaction, it makes the change a bit more acceptable at that top level. Then another thing that I have seen great organizations do, small, big, whatever it is that the people they are interviewing, they have a very different way of interviewing. Is that the CEO is being interviewed, call a couple of people from all departments, participate in a roundtable discussion with the candidates who are coming in. They don't know who's going to be, and let them give feedback, let them ask questions around that, so that we start feeling that not all of us, if we are 1,000 people, we can't all be whatever, but pick randomly. And no, you're picking with purpose. There are people who are very quiet. There are people who are very extroverted. You're mixing and matching and making sure that you are carrying everybody along around the appointment of a senior leader. Let them ask questions to these candidates. Why do you want to come and work with us? What will you be bringing? These are some of the things that we have here. Will you be able to accommodate this? So that even the candidate starts thinking about this culture of the organization. Is recruitment time consuming, guys? Recruitment is time consuming. Is it important to get it right? There's never been any other thing. The answer is obviously yes. So some of these things that would help you in the transition for change. We saw this person, this is what it is, so that also the other candidate gets whatever. I'm not saying that people will still resist, or let's see what they have to bring. Let them whatever. But we want to make sure that I'm also an employee. I mean, I'm governed, I have the same rights that you have. I just have more responsibility and more authority in the things that I have been asked to deliver. Those are the things that really make us different in terms of working in the organization. So I like what everybody is saying is that change at top level always brings a bit of anxiety. But how do we try and make sure that we demystify or we carry everybody along to get as little resistance as possible around the change? So thank you. Someone has shared with us there on the chat a very return back to work, Joroge. That's the one thing that HRs now are grappling with. That's the big topic on top of every HR. Please come back to the office. Please come back to the office. We want you to come back to the office. I want hybrid. I can tell you as Catherine, I have interviewed 3 people in succession. One has turned down the job because they want full remote working. My top candidate turned down the job and told me, if I cannot be assured of full remote working, I am not coming. Thank you for the opportunity. And then when I asked them, they said, I have put my life around remote working, and the kind of job it was software development. At the back, they work at night, the best, software developers. The next one said, you have to put it in my contract that I will have hybrid work from home 3 times a week, 2 times I will come to the office. And they say, but I have a standard contract. Then I'm thinking, that is not the world is going. I must also be accommodative of how I want top talent to come into the organization. And I said, but we have a policy of flexibility. They said, no. I am reporting to this manager whom we have actually agreed, and we seem to strike a balance. And if they leave, I don't want another manager to come and say, oh, the flexibility, I'm not giving people flexibility in my department. They want it written down. The other one, I need to know that there's flexibility. So things have changed. Return back to the office. What have you done? And I like that conversation. How safe am I around you? And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, so I have seen you at parties throwing caution to the wind. You get what I mean? You told me you went for this big party. You told me you went for this big funeral. You get what I mean? You travel with public transport. You're always at the supermarket. Of course, I'm thinking, I'm not saying that you are not being safe, but some of those trivial discussions and around how am I safe around my 50 colleagues, an environment which has now been, we have actually made all the safety precautions. How is it that? So are we talking and accommodating each other around safety of the other person? We know some people are more careful than others, no doubt about it, but reporting back to the office, the change and the resistance around, oh, well, I don't know about the other person. Have you been vaccinated? We're encouraging vaccination. It's mandatory to make sure that you're vaccinated and you've put boosters. We've also made it easier for you to make sure that you're getting all those services. Yes, we've done that. But how about now you're starting to put, I'm not sure whether I'm safe around Catherine. I don't know what they do. And then I'm just thinking, last week I saw you at that political rally there in the middle of whatever. Maybe I saw you or not. You get what I mean? So let's have meaningful discussions around return to work. We cannot negate the fact that we need to make it safe, but I like the hard discussion that HR is having now around return to work. Anyone who has anything you'd like to, whatever? So around return to work? RISPA, yes, I went for an interview last week in an organization that has been 100% working from home and had just reported back. You could tell the whole team was struggling to settle in, even as they were waiting for our sessions. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. So I think it needs to be very, very deliberate around return to the office, not return to work. It's now return to the office, back to the office, physical place, and putting emphasis and giving people the opportunity to allay their fears. What are some of the fears? Some people told me, I don't miss my colleagues. They're just acquaintances. I can put on my video if that's the requirement, do work, and then go back home. You know, but where is the collaboration? What are we going to do to make sure that the collaboration, the agility, the creativity is actually back, and also give people flexibility for how they want to be governed around hybrid? So that because now we have resemblance of COVID, you know, we almost know how now to manage it. It is no longer foreign for us, but now we need to look at the people aspect of what it is. So RISPA, RISPA, what are you going to do around if you get the job, and we hope that you get the job? I'm sure you already got the offer letter. So how are you going to make sure that you settle in people?
Actually, I was part of the interviewees.
Oh,
but we are still waiting for feedback.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you saw that was there good, was the social distance observed? Was there empathy around welcome? We won't keep you here for too long and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was very professionally handled. Everything was timed, like really timed to the minute.
Yeah.
But we had to walk around with these sheets of paper that we signed at the entrance that you were fully vaccinated. And unfortunately, for part of the team that went for the interview, if you were not vaccinated, then you did not have access to parts of the building. And therefore meant they actually did not complete the interview process, which was, I think, disheartening for them because it wasn't communicated prior.
Yeah, then I can, if I want to be difficult and if I want to pin you down, I would say that you didn't tell me that vaccination was one of the key requirements that actually would work against me in this interview. Either would have said and give you reasons as to why I cannot be vaccinated and maybe make a decision whether we'll go along with it, because there are reasons as to why some people may be religious, and it's in the constitution. You are right around that. That's a very different discussion again. But if I just showed up and you ask me, have you been vaccinated? And where's your certificate? I don't have it, but I can quickly go to the portal and show you that I'm vaccinated. And so go along with the interview, the full interview, access points and stuff and everything. And then I come there, show up, and then I tell you, no, I've not been vaccinated. And then you tell me, oh, but you can't. But then I'll ask you, but you didn't tell me. So why are we wasting each other's time here? You see, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the recruiter. So around making sure, again, putting everything into perspective and understanding where we are coming from. The thing is that I am here, I'm bringing in my expertise, and you need me, you know. So the recruiter should, the company or the recruiter should not have an upper hand. We are partners. You get what I mean? All of us know that we are partners. But anyway, that's a story for another day, RISPA. But of course, if I want to be difficult, I can ask you all those questions for you to be able to reflect. Anyway, what do we know about COVID? So return back to the office. I relocated very far. I can't come back. I am happy to work where I am. Change. Why are you telling me to come? You have seen me delivering. I can work under a tree. You keep saying work is a space, not a location. So let's leave the mantra. I have put on weight. I have no clothes to come to work. I need to invest in a wardrobe. I just used to put on my tracksuits and whatever it is. Now I have to come back with a suit and tie. I have put my activities around my work. I have to do school drop off now. I have to pick school. Am I still delivering? Yes. Now, if you tell me to come back to the office, I'm not able to. All sorts of manner of valid or invalid reasons as to why people will not come back to the physical location of work. So if you're struggling, I think it's important for you to have discussions with the people and for them to come up with solutions on to how to come back to the physical workplace. Anybody else would like to share with us these discussions? Anybody else? Okay, so it just goes to show what is compelling, what style of participation will work best for your people, you know, your teams. How can we communicate these messages to the target population? Who will be involved? You must think about all these things around change. So thank you for those discussions. Let's move on. Why do we need change in organizations? Okay, so to create what is not there through driven by vision. You know, some of the things we do not have, we don't have a strategy, we don't have these departments. We need to do that, and we have looked at the bigger picture and understood that we need to create some of the things that we do not have. So those will lead to us being in the change process to improve what is there through determined by market forces and what is competitor doing out there, isn't it? So to create what is not there and to improve what we have already. So those are the two things as to why we do not have, we drive for the need for change in organizations. Create what is not there, totally will destabilize the status quo. Some will be painful, some will be welcome. To improve what is not there, improving also means that we have to make some tough decisions that will affect people, isn't it? So that is important for us to know. Those are the two areas as to why we need change. When is organizations change inevitable? Okay, can we look at that and just see whether it has actually the glacier equation? Organizational dysfunctional, vision for the future, which is V, possibility for immediate tactical action first steps, where D times V times F is equals to resistance to change. Then organizational change becomes acceptable. You know that there is organizational dissatisfaction, sorry. So what are some of the dissatisfactions that we can have in an organization? What are some of the dissatisfactions we can have in an organization? Could be any dissatisfaction. Maybe we are not generating enough revenue. We've got a very good product, but we feel that dissatisfaction on our revenue generation, you know, dissatisfaction in our products or services. We feel that there's dissatisfaction around there. Dissatisfaction around the competencies that we have in the organization, which will lead us to do what? To have more what? Trainings in the organization. Dissatisfaction with the way we remunerate our people and the benefits that maybe we offer our employees. So dissatisfaction, we feel as an organization, there's a dissatisfaction somewhere. Vision for the future, we look and say, where do we want to be in the next 5 years? Paint that picture, use models for us to be able to look whether that vision will work in the future, and bring it very close home so that we're able to have data and facts on how the future is going to look. Possibilities for immediate tactical action, the first steps, what are we going to do as the first steps? We are going to say that we want to increase our revenue by 10%. And 10% means that this is the way we want to grow. We are going to go out and look for various, various quotations of improving our medical scheme. We are going to do a job evaluation to see whether we are good in the market in terms of the salaries that we are paying. So possibilities for immediate tactical action are the first steps that you are taking towards addressing the dissatisfaction. So when you're very clear about the dissatisfaction, you multiply it by the vision, and then you also multiply it with the first steps, and then you will see that it actually leads to resistance to change. Then organization change becomes acceptable because there's first resistance, and then when you show people what you want to do, they embrace the change. Sometimes it's good to learn these theories and these principles so that you actually can come and say, this is where it's going to lead us. And I see when I can put all this in numbers and into perspective, you will not have problems with the board asking for their buy-in and for their support in terms of bringing the change. Okay. Change management iceberg. We only see the tip of it. We never see the hidden iceberg, which is the bigger picture. We only see up here, issues, time, cost, quality, but the bigger one is always the acceptance, which is down there. How about getting there? About navigating the journey, planning and designing the components of the change program, managing and implementing the program and the process of change to minimize disruption and maximize the benefits, continuous monitoring the progress, and fine-tuning the change journey as required. Remember that we say that change is actually the journey. We are looking at the present, we are looking at the past, we are looking at the present, and we are looking into the future. It's almost like becoming magicians, unfortunately. So we need to look at change management, not at the tip, but actually going deeper and seeing what are some of the things that we do not see, because deeper is where we get the acceptance, because we shall be talking. But when you say, well, we want change, we want to cut costs, but what does it mean when you say you want to cut costs? Whom are you talking to? How is it going to affect the others? How is it going to affect the customers and the clients that we have? So it's important for you to think deeper, and the bigger chunk is always at the bottom, and that is where most of the time is we fail to address, and we only address the top part because it's what we see. We must be able to speak to the people and to get to their human heart. Any question? Any question? The goal of change management? The goal of change management and perspective: reduce productivity loss, avoid employee turnover, eliminate adverse impact on the change on the customers, and of course is to achieve desired results. Individual change management, bottom-up, employees' perspective, organizational change management. What do we mean by that? There are always perspectives around that, and we are very clear around why do we want to bring changes. Reduce productivity costs, avoid employee turnover, eliminate any adverse impact on the change and customers, and for overall is to achieve desired results. And then individual change management is bottom up around, we are talking in terms of bottom, we are also putting in our opinions, our concerns, We're also contributing to how this change how this change is affecting us. So it is not just up, bottom, but you're actually carrying people across with you. And then also looking at the perspective. You remember the assumptions and the perspectives, people, you must be able to address that so that people buy in your change. And then organizational change management. Then it starts happening and we start having that discussion. Okay. Individual change management, the employee's perspective, focus on daily operations, don't know all about the business issues, won't know why change is being made. None, not as accountable as managers. The primary concern is to know how change will impact them. Not everybody will know about changes. Some changes are complex, some changes are confidential until such a time that we are going to be communicated to. So one of the things is that you want people, even when change is happening, people to concentrate on the daily operations of their business, for people to be able to actualize their commitment and they're able to do what is required of them until such a time. But you're not, anyway, it's not like you are telling them, oh, you're not part of this change, but the manager is managing the day-to-day operations of the business and through people so that it is not, productivity is not diminished or customers are not going to move away to your competition. Organizational change management, as managers, have awareness of the larger context, are accountable, have to take into action, are results-oriented, weigh return on investment in comparison to other strategic initiatives. And the primary concern for them is the time frame for effecting the change, financial outcomes, investments required, and impact on the change on the customer. So the bigger picture, and you can see the bigger responsibility is actually taken by managers. So managers can be anyone who is in authority of implementing this change. They have to take into consideration that they need to be aware and are accountable for this change. You remember the very first slide. How did we ever get there? And someone is asking, the manager should be able to come and say, we went through this change, this is what happened, we communicated, and we are happy to take you along, okay? What are some of the myths about, myths of, you can relate with this? If you don't communicate about change and myths in change management, there could be others, that things will come down on their own. Will they come down on their own? They will not. In fact, if anything, you will just fuel the rumor mills much more. Planning can fully prepare us for change. Nothing, no amount of planning will prepare you fully and prepare us for change. There'll always be curveballs, COVID came, we thought, oh, well, with masks will help us. Then the following day, no, we have to social distance. The following day, we have to be vaccinated. We can't fully prepare for everything, but we always are told, prepare for the worst and expect the best, yes. So planning is important, but it's important to have flexibility because then things will change. And then the other myth, we can control change. Can we control change based on what we have seen? No, because change touches the core of people, and people want to understand what is happening, and people want to understand that I've been involved, and this is me. Change is personal. Change is emotive. Change involves people's feelings and people's ability to internalize. So we have to carry people along. So even if the change is physical, people also want to be involved in that. Take a simple example of wanting to put people in the same job families, for example. Maybe put support services together. One has been sitting in building A and the other one has been putting in building B. And one day you send a memo and say, all support services will be relocated to building A. Will you face some resistance? You will, because then people want to be involved in that change, even just simple change change things that you think are rather obvious. People will not be in agreement. People have to be communicated. People have to plan. And even just saying, let's say a manager sitting in ground floor and the team sits on the first floor and you want the manager to move to the first floor to be with the larger team, they might even resist and come and say, no, but I'm comfortable here. It works well for me. And you are trying to show reason and try moving their office. One Friday evening when they leave and they say, well, you've resisted the change, you'll find yourself on the first floor on Monday. And maybe it's even open plan, but maybe open plan in a way that gives them a bit of a corner for them to be able to concentrate and be with the team, not to micromanage the team, but sit with the team. You will still find resistance. So even small little things can bring a lot of resistance. We cannot control change. The myth is planning can fully prepare us for change and things will calm down. Okay. Anything that someone would like to add to? Welcome to the ones who have joined us recently. Anyone would like to add anything to changes that you have seen? Communication of policies, yeah, communication channels that exist, yeah. Okay, thank you for all that, for your input on the chat. Anything else that you would like us to focus on this change? Small little changes and the myths for change? Examples around that? Okay, let's move on. Please feel free to chime in. So would like to plot again in terms of plotting shifts in commitment. You know, how do we get people's commitment in the area of change for whatever change that we'll be bringing in the organization? Can you relate with this? These metrics? So there will be the line managers who should. There will be the senior team. There will be the board, HR. What is HR's involvement in the area of change? Let me pause there. And is HR fully involved in change? Or up to what point? What is HR's responsibility in change? And should they be the ones who are expected to see the change through? Anyone? Yes, Rispa?
I think there are different levels of HR, and for top level, HR should be involved in formulating the strategy for change. Mid-level should be involved in communicating the change and the need for change, and mid and lower level HR should help in the change process altogether. So yes, they do have a role in change management. Plus, really HR should be involved because they know what policies it's going to affect in terms of managing people and expectations that were set initially.
Exactly. Thank you, Rispa, for that. Yeah, different levels of HR depending on how your organization is structured, how big the organization, you might have different levels of HR. So Rispa is saying that every level of HR will have a sort of responsibility to be able to take people through the change. Someone else?
Catherine, I want to agree with Rispa. And say that HR plays a role of, I would say, advocate, kind of.
Yeah.
And the HR is in between, between the policy formulators and the staff. And she sits or he sits in, as Rispa said, when formulating the change strategies or policies. And when she sits there or he sits there, our role is to ensure that whatever change is being planned to be brought in is a change that will sit well or a positive change, kind of, and she will play the role of ensuring that involvement of the entire team is looked into, just to avoid resistance, and also for ownership. When you involve from start, that resistance tend to like flatten. And so the HR is in a better position because this is somebody who understands his people, I want to assume. And when she plays that role very well, like ensuring that these people are involved in the policy right from start, it becomes easy. And I would say the HR plays a critical role in the change process. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rispa. Thank you, Susan. It's true. I totally agree that HR will play a critical role, and they will be able to guide very technically and very methodically around the change. But the person who is fully in charge of change is the CEO. You know, it should actually be bought from the top, cascading down, and everybody else involved, because we say it's people, and people have feelings. You know, even a small little change will affect them. So HR will be able to say, this policy, this is what it says. Maybe it conflicts with this. We need to update it. We need to do this. If it's change about the business, the commercial team will be able to say that, but involve HR, because maybe there are competencies that will be required, and maybe we do not have that. What is HR going to do? How is HR going to make the training program? So you cannot fail to involve HR in your change processes. You know, if you do, then you'll be setting yourself up for failure, because HR really knows the inroads of the business in and out. Who is going to be a change champion? You know, you can almost say we see a lot of strength coming, and line managers as well, from people. You are change champion. This is a person who's going maybe to support you and to help you. So make sure that you're involving HR. So very important, top management buy-in, providing the resources, setting the example, setting the tempo and how the change is going to happen. But everybody who needs to be involved in the process must be brought into the picture. And you can see that it's everybody, the key players, the senior management team, everybody must be on board for change to happen and to happen successfully. So who are the key players? No commitment. You can see at when there's no commitment, let it happen. At what time it's going to take place? Help it happen and make it happen. You know, the line manager, let it happen. They give, yes, we are okay with that, let it happen. And they are also the ones who will make it happen. Don't overwhelm yourself with work that you are not supposed to be doing. Let the line managers be the one instituting the change. You know, the senior management team, let it happen, help it happen. You know, minimum commitment. And where is minimum commitment? The present state, and O is minimum commitment. You can see where HR is. Help it happen. They must be helped. Help it happen. As much as it, whatever. Make it happen is for the line managers. Get what I mean? And then for the board is make it happen. And it's going back, let it happen. You see, even the arrow has changed, and it's making sure that let it happen. And they must make sure that they have minimum commitment that is needed, because they've already given you guys the go ahead. And the employees, they have no commitment because whatever, but they start, let it happen, you know, and they now start making sure that they are there. And the project sponsor must let it happen, and let it happen through and through. Present state, they must be there, and minimum needed. So everybody is a key stakeholder when you're plotting out how your change is going to happen. Any question? Any question? Okay, let's move on. quickly in the interest of time. So planning change, let me get here to why change. I'll go back to those two slides. Just let's first reference. So why do we fail as managers to institutionalize the change? It's all this and much more, isn't it? And you can relate with this. Lack of focus of a focused manager in the team, you know, they think, well, the myths that we have seen, after all, you guys know about it, you should be able to move on. And why are we debating all this? Individual agendas are ignored. How I feel, the fears, the anxiety, the some of the things that I have actually inputted, and they are very important to this change. I can see that they are working, but you fail to involve me. The role of manager is disregarded as well by the people, by HR, and by senior management. You know, communication fails to win the hearts and the minds. If you don't give me a compelling reason as to why we should change, really touch the nerve of my heart and my feelings, you will not get very far. Engagement isn't measured. You know, how engaged are we in this change? And you can have questions and make a survey into how much people are feeling engaged. No regular training feedback on the engagement facilities. For sure, when you institute change, if you don't put all this into consideration, you are definitely not going to be successful in bringing in the change. Anything else that you can think about? There could be many other reasons as to why organizations fail to institute change. Some of the things that they have actually put up to do. What are some of the other things that we do? Level of involvement, coping with change. Why is change resisted? And why do organizations fail when they do that? Why, guys? There could be many more reasons. I'll pause here, and some of the things that you have done and you failed. Let's also share experiences. Anyone would like to share? Change that did not happen and it went pear-shaped. What was the reason? Let's share experiences if you have any. McCarthy's 6 reasons why organizations changes fail. Yeah, okay. There could be many more. Feel free to drop them on the chat or just as we go along. Okay. Barriers to change. Personal barriers and rational barriers. You know, personal barriers, individual resistance. You know, you didn't carry me along. We have talked about that. I just don't feel it. I'm a difficult person. That's it. And technological problems, legal issues, resource availability, and problems. Let's talk about difficult people. We already know this is a difficult individual. Anything we ever say, even when we ask them to go for team building, they will not go. How do we help a difficult person accept change in an organization? People who live the anxiety that change brings. That's but we know that an organization will have difficult people. People will always be on the other side of the divide. How can we help those people deal with change and accept change? So already they are difficult, and change is difficult, like what we have seen. How can we help those people, or what can we do to assist them? Dealing with difficult people and helping them change. Okay. Anyone who would like to share?
12:30.
One people let's pause there. I think that is very important for us to think about difficult people and how you can help them accept change. Or we assume they will follow through or they can leave. How can we help them? Please, let's share. Let's hear your experiences, what you have done. Suzanne, any thoughts? Faith, any thoughts? Rispa, any thoughts? I'm calling people who are on the panel like this. I can see them easily if I scroll down. Difficult people, what can we do for them to accept change? Lydia, Jean, Meshach, Modoni, Faith, Doreen. Anyone? Any thoughts? Mark? What can we do?
Maybe I can say a lot of times people resist things if they do not know about whatever it is that is going to happen. So information is very, very important, making people understand why, probably bringing them from the point of where we are right now, why we need the change, and this is how we are going to go with the change. So I think communication really helps when somebody is able to digest and understand why and how it's going to affect them, then they may be more receptive to the change, as opposed to they do not know. Then that one they'll definitely be resistant towards it. Thank you.
Okay, constant communication, show them the how, the when, the who. Okay, thank you. Christine, and then Rispa.
On my end, I know that there's these people who are difficult. And normally you'll find that there are also people who have a big following in terms of people listen to them, and they'll normally be the ones who shout and they give a lot of influences to most of the staff in the organization. So for me, how to deal with that kind of a group of people is just to make sure that they are responsible for that change that they want. You know, in the sense that the things that they are normally negated to, make sure that they are the ones who are asking them, okay, now how can you make it better? So that now when they are following it up, then it will look like, and again, you see, they will also have that aspect of that kind of recognition that they look for, you know, when they are resisting some of these things. So let them just have that responsibility. That's how I would take it. Thank you.
Yeah, I like what you say, Christine, before we come to Rispa, is that sometimes these people have a big following, you know, and you wonder why people are following them, you know, because maybe they can be the loudest, they seem to be the one who will protect us from management. And unfortunately, if we have a poor culture, let me put it like that, when we have a poor culture in an organization, we tend to have camps, and those camps can destroy the organization. And people look upon them to go in and talk to management, and sometimes they can say, you know, we'll stay put, and there's nothing that the organization can do to us. You know, we've already made up our mind. They better go and find solutions and stuff like that. But how about now having to make sure that we are having a better culture in terms of communication, in terms of trust, in terms of empathy? And I like what Christine has said. You want that change? Tell us, take us through the steps of change, and be the one who is fully in charge, and to see what they can do, and appealing to them. And I also keep asking people, if you were in my shoes, how would you do it? You know, making them the champions for them to see. And sometimes they say, oh, okay, I didn't know it was that big. And now, no. I think I was wrong in terms of that. And I accept I was difficult in that area. Okay, thank you, Christine. Rispa?
I actually want to share an experience I've had. I've had what people would refer to as a difficult friend in a previous organization, Unfortunately, her role was critical in the organization process. So all those things of if she can't conform, let's get her out, couldn't work. But she had a default, what I would call a default disagreeable position to anything. And everyone knew anything we were discussing, anything that was supposed to be done, you needed to plan on how to deal with this particular person because she's going to go against anything you put on the table. And my approach to dealing with her, because I also needed, I'm sorry I've used the word her, I was trying to avoid it. My approach to dealing with this situation, because I also needed the person in my process, was to involve her in this process and give the person a role to play. So before everyone knew, because already I knew if I put it out to everyone, there's going to be a pushback. So I would call the person earlier, sit them down, talk them through it, and ask for help and say, I need you to help me with this critical part. Then now she's part of the process. I'm not sure how sustainable that is in the long run for an organization, but it was one way to get things rolling.
Yeah, you know, the thing is that you are caught in a catch-22, Rispa, and I totally agree, and everybody can relate with what you are saying, is that they are a critical resource, subject matter expert maybe in the organization, and they're always going against the tangent, and you just wonder, can't you see the bigger picture? Why are you swimming upstream when all of us are swimming downstream? And it's rather obvious that this is what needs to be done. It's difficult for what it is because people do not want to work with them. And it brings a lot of animosity because then they are a critical resource to the organization. And then on the other side, they are not a team player. So it makes it so difficult for us to be able to relate in anything that they want to do. And people will come and say, if they are there, then I will not come, and I will not be part of the project. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions and take consequences around behavioral aspects of people. And that's why it is important for us to define our values around behaviors. If we have a value of personal excellence, what are the behaviors that should be modeled around personal excellence? If we have a value of collaboration, what are the behaviors around collaboration and so that we can give people examples when they are going outside those values, we have clear examples that what it is. So we start building a case around if we have a value of integrity, what are the behaviors that should be modeled around integrity? Let's not just stop at the place of putting values, of developing values, but we should go deeper and articulate what kind of behaviors we want around our values. That is one thing. So that even when we're having those discussions and putting people on PIP around values and behaviors, we have examples. And they will not say that it is written or I did not know. And also supporting people and saying, this is how you will become unsuccessful if you continue to be difficult in working with people. Call out bad behavior. And sometimes maybe they do not know and they say, oh, I was born this way. You have the opportunity to change when you see how unsuccessful you are going to be working with people, because we find success through people. That's one of the things. Is it bad for them to leave our organization? It is bad for them to leave our organization. We will be happy. Will we be happy when they leave? Everybody will throw a party when they leave. The sad bit, and unfortunately, if they have not learned from their behavior and how it affects people, and how they will take that to the next organization. So for them to know you're moving, okay, you are very critical and everybody wants you it might be like that, but how do you make sure that you stay? Because word goes around. And Susan will call me and say, Catherine, I'm interviewing RISPA, and we are friends. You know, we are friends, me and Susan. And whatever they've applied, and then I will say, do you want the truth? And because you're my friend, is that she's very good, she'll be able to deliver, but you need to watch out on how she relates with people in a very objective way. It's not that I am saying she did this and this and this. I am being objective around. You have to watch out and help her around how she relates with people. I'm not saying that you do not hire her. So retention again, separation again, and there's no right answer. It's what we have seen around change is that we have to be flexible around change and around people. But people just want to be difficult. I don't think they have a place in the organization, and we should be brave enough to tell them, if you want to stay with us, then this has to change. Those are difficult things, but we need to try, and we need to take them for coaching, because then they can bring out things that even them, they will think, oh my gosh, I never thought that is how people look at me. I just thought I want to move ahead with my career. I don't like people who are indecisive, but you won't find perfect place in the world, and you have to be accommodative of that. So if those are your brothers and sisters, those are your cousins, and those are your friends, you must help them at the friendship level. You must tell your friend, you are a difficult person. I wonder how you relate with your team members. How do people view you at your place of work? Even how do you manage people with this kind of behavior? You must have those conversations with your friends, so that we are helping people at society level. Then they are taking it, they are thinking, oh, Catherine really told me off, but I think she had the best interest of me. And how do I take it at the workplace? How are people seeing me? You remember, we want people who are vulnerable at the workplace. We want people who are authentic, that the same Catherine you see at a party is the same Catherine you see at her. I keep saying that is the same Catherine you see at the workplace. Okay. Anybody else who has an experience, very good experience? Thanks, Rispa. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, Christine, for sharing your experiences. Everybody, how we should work around difficult people around change. In my experience, I have dealt with difficult people by building a strong guiding coalition. I like that. The quota change, Nini, you're referencing quota. I like that. With the coalition in place, it is easier to deal with negative political behavior. So thank you, Meshach, for one quota change model, where it says that you really build a strong guiding coalition. I like that. Thank you. So you put people together. This is what we want to do. And we are not saying that we are against you. We are just saying that we embrace the change. This is what we want to do. And you are the only one who is not for change. Then you'll come and think, hey, Apana, I'm being left behind. People are doing this, and I see it is good. So it is important to build those strong teams that we have. Anybody else? Hannah, did you want to say anything? I see that you have unmuted yourself. Anything that you'd like to share? Okay, before we go on, so difficult people. So there will be barriers to change, the rational barriers, the tangible, the concrete things that we want to do, and then the personal barriers. And that's why I stopped there, and for us to have a discussion around difficult people. Thanks for that input. Let's move on. Okay. So these are the, sorry. Okay, so types of change, extent of change, we want to look at again the barriers, the two barriers of change. It should be incremental. It should be, sometimes it is going to be radical, sometimes it's going to be peripheral, it's going to be core, and the speed of change. So just us bringing together and thinking, what kind of a change am I dealing with in the organization? Types of change, the extent of change, the speed of change. Sometimes you just think, oh, the speed is too fast, and it is required. The speed is required. It's incremental. Some of the things around policies, it's always incremental. We want to get better. It is radical. This is it. We have to do sudden surgery. It's not working for us. And that's really, it calls for you to be very brave for you to do radical changes. Peripheral, on the changes on the fences, how are we bringing it together before we bring it to the real centerfold of the change, and then it is core, all for the business, but we need to make those changes. So it is important, even when you look at changes, you identify what type of change it's going to be, so that you also you use the right criteria to bring in the changes. Any question, any reaction? So types of change. Types of change. There's radical, there's incremental, there's peripheral, and there's core, what we have seen. So in radical and peripheral, the change is moderate. It's moderate disturbance, and it's very low risk. When it is incremental and peripheral, it's very low. It is low disturbance and low risk. When it is radical and core, it means that it has moderate disturbance and moderate risk. And then if it is radical and core, it is high disturbance and high risk. So even when you are plotting the change in terms of where it is, if it is incremental, gently, if it's radical changes that we need to do, peripheral on the fence and what it is, bringing it into, anchoring it into the core change, then that needs to be done. So when you look at where would you like to be as an organization when you are carrying out the change? Are you able to embrace high disturbance and high risk as an organization? You ask yourself, am I ready? High disturbance, high risk. If I am looking at, well, depending on what kind of change I want to institute, moderate disturbance, moderate risk, low disturbance, low risk, moderate disturbance, low risk. At HR level, in some of all the functions of HR, can you map any, when you are making a change, around all these types of change? What would you say? Where would you like to be? What makes you comfortable? What would you like to in an organization? Yeah, and it entirely depends on the kind of change that you will go through. During COVID, what did we see? When you needed to make survival for the business, some of the changes, where did it fall in terms of the business decisions that you made? Maybe sending people on half pay, unpaid leave, freezing hires, retrenching people, changing the business models, those kind of changes that you had. Were they radical? Was it incremental? Was it core? Was it on the peripheral? Was it peripheral? Where was it? Let's talk about that and how it made people feel. It was radical. Yes, thank you. During COVID, we had high disturbance, high risk. Everything was unplanned. Thank you, Modoni. Someone else? Thank you for those contributions. Anybody else?
Catherine, I think it was high disturbance, high risk. Yeah, I think companies had to do what they had to do.
Yeah, to survive.
Yeah, it really destabilized a lot of things, and laying off or cutting people's salaries, which is against the law. It was like taking the risk.
Yeah, it was very difficult. Yeah, someone else in your industry, what happened? High disturbance, high risk. Thank you, Faith. Anybody else? Yeah. So it depends on what you want to do. If it's radical, it's core, just know that that's what's going to happen. If it's incremental, and sometimes you want to take people gently, okay, the boat is not broken, but we need to, the wheel is not broken, but we need to have some changes around it. Is that okay? Great. So thank you for that. So we look at, look at that. where we came from? Is that what we think? Yeah.
What is the word erase in Kiswahili? Erase.
Plan versus emerging change. What is planned or imagined, episodic or continuous? You know, development, transitional, and transformational. You know, so there will be planned changes and there will be emergent changes. What are some examples of emergent changes in an organization? Emergent changes. And what are some of the examples of planned changes, for example? For us to understand that. Very, yes.
Let me maybe give an example of an emerging change. And I'll give an example of my organization. It's donor funded. And in 2018, I think I had shared this before, 2018, the partner or the donor gave us funding that they normally give us for 3 years. And they say, this is funding for 5 years. So this is not something that we had planned. And they normally they don't tell you downsize or do whatever you do. You just figure out. So it's a polite way of telling you, just see what you can do with this. If you will downsize, if you will reduce salaries and maintain the whole workforce, just figure out and share the proposal. So I think that was an emergency, an emerging change that was not envisioned. And you need to figure out now going forward how you're going to play around this money that these people have given you. So I would say that would be an example of an emerging change.
Exactly, and figure out how you're going to work around your resources, what's going to happen to you guys, whether you want to downsize whatever the people. But I'm sure one of the things that the donor has said is that I want all the programs implemented the same way, you know. So
exactly. In fact, they give you the percentages on the admin program, that kind of thing. The percentages remains. So in simple terms, they have communicated.
Exactly. They've communicated and they didn't even, you know, again, I'm the donor, I can call the shots, you know, but again, also, shouldn't you be pulling me as along and saying, hey, buddies, we've got money, but we can see that when we look at it realistically, it can be planned around 5 years, can stretch to 5 years with the same kind of output that we want, you know, so change again. And what do we do? Sometimes maybe you are resistant to it. And what sometimes is that you do a radical change and say, for us, if we had 5 drivers, we only want now 3 drivers, isn't it? You quickly panic before you sit down and say, this is what needs to be done. Thank you, Modoni, for, is it Modoni on the chat who has said an emerging change was how we had to go and work at home quickly, radically. COVID is here and stuff like that. A plan change is that we are going to be looking at our strategic plan. It's coming to an end next year. We need to start thinking about bringing in the next 5-year strategic plan. Start planning around it. Look at our business. How has it been performing? What are some of the things that we want to change? Taking stock of what we have done and making sure that we are planning. Plan change around the system. We need to bring in a new system or upgrade the system completely, you know, or one of the things that we have had is our response time to customer complaints. How about bringing in a customer management system and for them to be able to log in to bring in efficiencies? So some plan changes will be there and some emerging changes will always be there. And the ones that really throw us off the curve are emerging changes because we did not envision them, and some of the time we did not plan around them. Okay, thank you for that. And you can see that, you know, people come out, and to the time of the computers, of technology, we evolve over time. This picture just wants to show us that we evolve over time, and changes can be planned, and some changes can. Most of the time, the planned changes will give us a very good time to think through where we are, but emerging changes will throw us off the curve sometimes. Okay, great. Any question? People reaction to change. Confidence versus the time taken. People reaction to change, and me and you are affected by change all the time. Okay. I feel overwhelmed by this change. You know, I'm not sure I know what's going on. Even sometimes if you're in the center of the change, sometimes the change happens so many times, and there are so many changes. Sometimes, even if you're the custodian of the change, sometimes you go back to your office and say, I don't even know what is happening. What did they just say? What happened there? You know, I can't handle this. Actually, things might get better. Okay. This way is more effective. This could be a better way of doing it, and many other things that have not been put here. It's not whatever. They really made the effort to help us implement the change. And sometimes it can be someone internally, and sometimes we need to call in an expert to help us go through the changes, you know. And half the time, let's look at the changes that we have in the organization. We can't say that all the changes are detrimental, that they affect us negatively. I think the most important thing is that we want to see changes which are comfortable around what we do. I think that's the most important thing, is that we want to make sure that the changes are positive compared to them being negative. And that's what, as an organization, we need to continuously do, that all the changes are positive. But sometimes it's that they do affect the people who are going to be sitting on those changes. Any question? People's reaction to change? So how people react to change, the information, how reactions change, the information they receive, their work and how they do it, the context in which they do their work, the needs for the organization. So those reactions, from these reactions, people's reaction to change is when they have actually now simulated the change. So how do they react, you know, around that? Is around the information they receive. What are they going to do with it? How will they do their work, and how will their work change regarding the information that they have received? The context in which they do their work, will it change? And will I need to accommodate some of the things that I have had, or some of the things that have been told to me? The needs of the organization, that I need to take that into consideration. To change their behavior, employees will need to see the link between all these 4 areas that I have actually mentioned. Okay. So how ready am I for the change? And let's even think for us as individuals, ready for change. Change is possible anywhere, anytime. Change happens when I am willing to do whatever it takes, when I'm willing to change the way I think and act, then I'm ready for change to happen. You know, am I really ready for that change, and how it is going to be done? Okay. So is that something that you have communicated? And me as an individual, remember we said that individuals also are affected by the change. The change cycle, you can relate with this. There's always denial, and then there's resistance, there's exploration, and then there's commitment. And let's look back. Am I ready for change as an individual? Remember, organizations are run by people who have feelings and who have emotions. So the most important thing is that when I'm confronted by that change, whether it's positive or negative, I need to be able to say, change happens when I am willing to do whatever it takes. And then it leads me to understanding. For me, who is implementing the change or bringing the change, I must put myself in the other person's shoes and say, there might be denial in the first instance. Denial, it's not going to happen. After all, they say this all the time and it never happens. So denial. And this cannot be happening. They didn't even think about it. And they never include me, or that denial. Resistance. There's nothing. After all, I'm not a tree. I can move. Resistance to change, and really you not getting any traction in terms of implementing the change. Exploration, when people now start thinking, I need to get involved. I see the bigger picture. I understand what people want us to achieve. And then finally, I will get to the level of commitment. So it's the same, norming, storming, forming, and I think at cruise level, whatever it is. So let's quickly look at those 4 stages. Denial, running away from the change. People should be helped to recognize their denial behaviors or behavior. Group denial also impacts the organization. Remember where we said that one person who's very powerful and very difficult, what happens is that they do what? Is that they bring group dynamics. They make everybody now start sucking into that denial mode. People generally avoid exploring new behaviors. Attaining high on denial means that you don't acknowledge the change, are unaware of how the change affects you, see the change as temporary. Denial, it will surface in cloud. After all, they say this all the time and they never do anything about it. Resistance, you can see everybody pulling to their side and wanting to be seen as the ones who are winning. Everybody resists change, me and you. Resistance is natural, so let's never take it that it's a bad thing. Attaining high resistance means that you are feeling insecure, doubt your abilities, feel embarrassed, think you lack power, don't appreciate the change. That is what it is, me as an individual. This is very personal to you. Everyone resists change. So never think that that person is being difficult unless you know them previously that they are difficult. But me and you who know about change is that change, we resist change in a very natural way. And why do we resist that change? Is because we feel insecure. We don't know how to deal with it. You doubt your inabilities. Oh my gosh, they're telling me to go and work in Uganda and I don't even know anything or whatever about that and everything. You know it's a good opportunity, but the first thing is to resist. You doubt your abilities. You feel embarrassed about the change that is going to happen. You think you lack power and don't appreciate the change. So this is a very individual and a very personal stage that you are in because it's about you. Exploration, you see, look at that picture. It's nice, can do anything. You start generating energy, providing learning opportunities. And for people, they start really accepting the change. Once you reflect back and see what it is, they assess the change, have a clearer vision of the future, begin working towards it with enthusiasm and with zeal. So how do we attain that? It means that we're excited about the change, are focused on the future, have positive feelings about the change. And it depends on how it was sold to you and the relationship that you have with the people who are bringing the change. So your culture matters a lot in terms of change and how successful you're going to be with it. And finally, the commitment, which we all want, the collaboration, high fives. We say we are in it together, we have come out winning. Results of effective performance, adopt change is being normal, business as usual, in the comfort zone. It's business as usual. Okay, we thought it's going to be so difficult. It's not bad at all. And how do we embrace it? Accept that change is permanent, work to carry on the change, feel comfortable about the change, be prepared for the next for the next thing, because accept that change is permanent. It will always happen. We're on the go, change. Today you are using this road, tomorrow you go, it's been closed, you have to use another road. The bypass now, the overfly, the big project is there. What is it being called? That big road, the expressway highway has come. Now you have to start thinking of the tours and stuff like that. Change will come. Another big thing will come. The government will change. CBC is here to stay. 844 out of the way. CBC is here to stay. So change, permanent. As I want to start getting used to it, another big thing has come. You're in your teenagehood. The next thing you know is that you are the youth. The next day you know that you have to go to work. The next thing you know is that maybe you have a family. The next thing you know is that you are approaching your days to meet your maker. So changes will, and every stage, what are you doing about that change? You always go through this cycle of change. And the most important one is resistance, because it is you as an individual and quickly calling yourself to question how best to come out of it. Okay. So I will not go through the assessment information, change assessment. How can you move from denial, find out what is happening? We've already talked about that. Separate wishes from reality. How can you move from resistance? Those are some of the things that you would need to do. And the most important one I would like us to highlight is seek support to adjust to the change and develop more positive outlook, because you know that is going to happen. How can you move from exploration to commitment? Explore, seek ideas and adapt new things, experiment before adapting the new solutions. Sometimes you want to make sure that you also let people explore and ask more questions around adapting new solutions. Any question there? Around yourself and in change? We learn these new things all the time. So never think that you are disadvantaged around that, okay? Different roles for change initiatives in an organization. There will be change drivers. There will be change implementers. There will be change enablers. And there will be change recipients. So, and depending on your strength and expertise and your passion, we said that people in an organization should take one different role while a change is being initiated or implemented in an organization. They could be taking up the role of a change driver, an implementer, an enabler, or a change recipient. Where do you normally fall as an individual? Which one? And it depends on how you perceive the change. Who are the change drivers? For example, who are the drivers? Who are the implementers? Who are the enablers? And who are the recipients? And all of them play a critical role in the area of change, the roles of change. Who's a driver? Change drivers. To see whether we have been paying a lot of attention from all the discussions that we have had. Who are the implementers? Remember the plotting metrics?
I would say that the drivers are the management.
Mm-hmm. The management.
And, management, yes. And then I'll say the implementers, the middle level managers.
Mm-hmm.
Enablers. The HR will fall there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe heads of departments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the recipients are the staff. Yeah, I would place.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Rispa, I see your hand up. Mm-hmm.
I had similar thoughts to Susan.
Yeah,
exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Okay, so Hannah here says, drivers are the board of directors and senior management, implementers are the managers, enablers are the supervisors, and recipients are the people who are going to be affected. Those are the staff, the employees, okay? Someone else, any different? Anybody else with a different view? I agree to what? Drivers, who are the sponsors, who are going to make sure that the change is happening. The drivers, we are the drivers of change. So at that top level, your board of directors, your board of management, real drivers. Understand the change, why the change is critical, how it's going to bring value to the organization. The implementers, the people who are going to make sure that they implement, they roll up their sleeves and make sure that it is happening, and it is happening in a way that they are pulling everybody alongside with them. The enablers, the technical people, HR putting in the processes, the line managers who are coming in and saying the change is happening. Let's enable it and let's make sure that it is happening, and we can go back and give reports on how it is happening. And of course, the recipients are the people receiving the change. And remember, they are the people who need to be communicated to as much as possible so that they can buy into your change. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, great. It's important for you to know that who are those. Okay, and finally, how do we make sure that how do we bring in the change and freezing and freeze and freezing and refreeze? How do we implement change? Like which gentleman referred to before, there are many change models, but the undesired situation, what do we want to change? And freeze and bring stability. This situation is not helping us. We are not getting enough revenue to run this business. This is a very undesired position that we are in. We need to change. We need to do something about it, And unfreezing change, when we unfreezing change, there will be chaos. That's what we need to do. We need to understand there will be unpredictability. We will have no control. There will be confusion. There will be loss, and there will be attachment. So those are some of the things we need to be understand, that when we unfreeze that change, we now start talking about it. This is the most uncomfortable stage. Nobody seems to know what is happening. Nobody seems to understand what is happening. People have their own opinions and whatever. So we need to make sure that when we understand in this stage and we start discussing it, and then after that, we go back to the desired situation. After we've made very tough decisions around the unfreezing stage, when we have discussed that, because we want to see the change happening, and finally we get to the desired situation. I'm not saying that on day one, we are talking, revenues have dwindled, we need to do something about it. So we unfreeze. We need to do something. This will take months, this will take years, this whatever. It's like changing a culture. Nothing, it's not one day. Even when we are making changes, some changes are very easy to make. Some changes require time, effort, and resources to be able to do that. So it just depends. What we need to understand is that when you commit to making a change or changes, you must have a process, and that process has to be documented for us to know exactly where we are at, evaluate at each stage for us to know that we are making the milestones, or we are making the effort, or we are making the changes that need to be changed at every effort. So some changes will take a longer time. I cannot say how long, depending with the institution and how urgent the change is for us to be able to do that. Okay. In 3 change process, that's where we say we unfreeze, we change, and we freeze. That's very easy of what it is. And we've talked about that in the previous slide. Program change management, the bulldog and the button model, exploration stage, the planning stage, the action stage, and the integration stage. All this, I'm sure maybe you don't call it the Bullock and the Batten model, or you don't call it the Levine's model, or you don't call it the Cotter change model, or all these other models. But I'm sure that you have a process of bringing alongside change in an organization. But sometimes it is nice to reference some of these models, because then they articulate what should be done at every stage of change. So it is important. And it's nothing that we do not know. It's just things that we need to remind ourselves from time to time. Any question before we look at the other models? So the same, I will not go through. We're exploring the issue, and we are looking at what needs to be done. We are planning, we are diagnosing the problem or the challenge or the change that we want to see. We are agreeing with the stakeholders of what needs to be done. The action stage where we are putting pen to paper, we are making sure that we are implementing it, and we are looking at the desired results that needs to come out of the change. And the integration stage is that we are stabilizing and embedding the change in the organization. So continuous development, continuous talking, continuous evaluation, like any other change. At the end, you want to evaluate how it has been and how it is going to, how it is fitting into the organization, what benefits it is bringing, and what are the learnings that we have taken out of the whole change process. Quarter 8 step, you remember? So this is enabling, bringing a sense of urgency, creating a guiding coalition, bringing people together, develop a vision and strategy, communicate the change vision, empower employees or the people who are going to be implementers, or the people who are going to be affected by the change, generate short wins. Sometimes it is good to show the people what are some of the quick gains and short wins that we have brought, and then anchor the change or the changes, processes that we have brought in place, and consolidate the gains for more change. You remember, change is permanent. And the next thing is that another change will need to be done, and it's a never-ending phase that we are in. Okay, any question? Finally, we are looking at building the commitment stages of individual behavior. So that is also something that is important around increasing the commitment on how people view change. So the awareness change, understanding the change direction, transition to the work setup, commitment to personal change, and internalizing the new behavior. Because sometimes we want to create a change around behavior. So this is a very important slide. When you look at it, you can take a picture, but you'll find it on the LMS, is how do you increase commitment from a behavioral point of view. You remember the people we've talked about, difficult people, how can we bring them along? You know, how can we push them along for them to understand that they need to be a behavior change in the organization, in you as an individual, and how can we support you, and what are the stages that we are going to follow? Okay, easy. There are ways to be able to do that. And finally, it's the ADCA model, individual change. So these are the ones that awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Once you tell someone that you always procrastinating, you know, you have a weakness, and your key weakness is procrastinating. And because one of our key values is personal excellence, then what does it mean that you make everybody not be able to push work because you have not given your reports, or you have not reported, or you've not made a decision on a critical area that we needed you to give direction on? So you make them aware, and then you show them where the desired behavior should be referenced to, and what the knowledge that they should have, their ability, and you reinforce. So you're working with them the journey of trying to change a behavior. Okay, Mapping ADCAR to change management. So awareness, around awareness, you need to have constant communication. The desire you have sponsor a roadmap and in terms of an accountability body. In terms of knowledge, you're also looking at training. You know, you can take someone for training to be able to learn the new behavior or to pick up some of the things that around, let's say, procrastination. What does it mean? You need to have good coordination. You need to be a better planner. You need to delegate more, you know, around procrastination and learn new skills around the behavior that needs to be addressed. And then ability, readiness, in terms of how ready are you to be able now to start working on your own, because we have been able to help you. And reinforcement is supervisory coaching and holding you accountable and putting some of the consequences. So never feel that you cannot change behavior of a person, that you feel that they are letting the organization down. There is no reason as to why, when you look at all this model, that you are able to work with and be able to get sure that they are committing and increase their productivity and increase their ability to change, okay, and to embrace change, okay. How to enhance your own speed of change, positive outlook as an individual, remain focused. Example, make sure that you are bringing in flexibility. You have a structured approach to the issues that need to be changed. And we said that Rome was not built in a day, so you might want to think through it and to see what is the best. Be proactive and bring in the team spirit. Any question? Any question? Couple of more slides that we have. Managing change, some of the challenges. So we've already talked about that. As an individual, we looked at the resistance to change as an organization. And now as an individual is that initiating the change, sustaining the change, redesigning and rethinking the change, and then don't have time for these tasks. Those are some of the things that you may say have no help to it. Significantly, the task isn't relevant and not walking the talk. So when you start thinking about this change as an individual and how you are being helped, also call out for support that you need from your supervisors. Managing change, some of the challenges is sustaining momentum. Some challenges you will see is that the task isn't working. We have it the right way. They don't understand us. Those are some of the things that they will say. Sorry, my slides went off. Redesigning and thinking some of the challenges. Who is in charge of these tasks? What we keep reinventing the wheel all the time. Where are we going? So what we are trying to say is that even when you are bringing change, let people see value for it. Don't keep bombarding people with change that is not necessary. All the time you want to change, you want to change, you want to change. And people are not seeing the value for this change. Or you've not even asked people, so what's your opinion? We changed last. What have we learned from there? All of a sudden, even before we settle in that change that was has just been brought, you want us to go into another change. People become fatigued with constant changes, especially where they see no value that is being brought to them and to the organization. So let us be careful in that, okay? Involve others in the change. Everyone contributes to the change. Build a strong unified team. Provide others with varied opportunities to shape the change. Handle resistance effectively. Give people to accept and adapt the change. We've talked about all that, okay? So it's the same. How can we make sure that we are taking people alongside the change? It is just explanation from this other slide, okay? Okay, make sure that people have a mental clear slate that what I have said, you know, the more changes take the more problems crop up, we need to let people first internalize the previous change and people to accept and to be able to move on. So don't put people in a fatigue state all the time because we just want to be seen to be changing, okay? Monitor and of course, monitor and control the change. Those are important aspects in all the overall change systems that you will be bringing to your organization. And finally, how do we monitor change? There could be many ways. We could have conduct studies, bring people to a focus group, get the data and analyze the data to make sure that you are monitoring the change. And finally, what are some of the key lessons? Oh, sorry about that. That we are looking at, is required to bring in any change. Training needs to be provided. Individuals need to be prepared to get trained. New processes and procedures need to be documented. Teams should be encouraged to learn, grow, and make mistakes. Appreciation of new technique, methods, and ideas are necessary. There has to be leadership involvement dedicated to a certain mission or vision, respect for all individuals who will be contributing to the change or affected by the change, decentralization of the organization to accept change quickly and with the speed that is deserved, management by facts and figures, and making sure that we're empowering people to manage the change. That brings us to the end of our webinar for today. Right on time at 11:30, I will open this session to plenary questions, answers, reactions, feedback. Important, whether you felt it was important, whether it was worth it. I welcome feedback before we call it a day and get ready for tomorrow's session. Anyone would like to react to today's webinar? Was it useful? What are you taking away around change? Anyone?
Catherine.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
Yeah.
I must say it was very rich content and well thought through. And my takeaway for this particular session is when I want to institute change in my organization is I must do a thorough diagnosis. It's trying to understand how I'm currently functioning, which would give me be able to pick the key things that I want to change. It's like a doctor. When a doctor is diagnosing what's really aching you, it will help him to know what prescription to give. So if I do a good diagnosis for my institution or my organization, I'll be able to pick the areas that we are ailing and the areas that I would want to change. So the diagnosis has to be right. Basically, that's what I'm saying. And also the communication, constant communication, and bringing in these difficult people. I think that was key for me. Bringing in the difficult people into the coalition and ensuring that those areas that you want to change, you ensure that they are part of it and you pick the points that they are bringing out. And when you're executing or passing out the information, you make sure that you mention them, that they have really contributed to this, so that they don't have HEPA. Once you have mentioned them, that they have really contributed to this, we pick key points from Susan. There's no way that this person is going to, he will be forced, or rather he will have no choice but to be part of this coalition, passing the information. So I think that is what I'm going to carry out. But basically, the training has been very informative for me. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Susan. And I believe that we can all reflect back and attest to what make a rejoin at what Susan has said, including me, carry people along, look at those difficult people, communicate. They can never be you cannot over communicate. I can tell you for a fact. People say, Catherine, but you told us that yesterday, but I am repeating it today because I can see that we are picking up the momentum, and because of that, then let's keep at it. Or I'm communicating again because I can see that what we agreed upon is not being done. You get what I mean? So communicate is very important. Communication is very important. Thank you, Anna. My 2 takeaways: communication, create value for the change, and involve others and monitor the progress. Very, very true. Okay. Thank you, Jane, for joining a wholesome session. Thank you, Catherine, for. I'm always appreciative for you guys attending. Anybody else? Any question? Anything that was not clear? Anything that you want to do differently? Yes, Rispa?
I think the session is, like Susan said, very informative for us as a HR community. But like we've learned, there are people who are supposed to drive change in the organization, the managers, the top level management. So how is this information getting to them? Because the reason probably change will not be successful or will be bungled up within an organization is because that change driver, the person who is supposed to institute it and own it, has messed up in the whole process and probably is not even aware. And then when things go south with the employees, then HR is left to pick up the pieces.
And that's very true. That HR is now left with the baby and the bath water and the egg on the face and everything, including the shells, I think, and not what I think, the most important thing is to have a very deliberate process on how change is going to be instituted. And for top management to know that they own the change and they are going to be involved from the beginning to the end. And for HR, for you to help and to be seen that you are adding value is to be very close to the change sponsor. I think that is very, very key and very important for it to show that I want to help you and I see that this is going off the course. Let's bring it back and say that you have to commit time in this change process. So constant communication and showing them that if it's going to be not going to be successful, you might be the one blamed for this change. So commit to it and show where they can get value. And sometimes they'll say, but I don't have time. How about delegating? And making sure that every Monday morning we are feeding you on how that change is going to be. And then every Friday after every 2 weeks, you're going back to the people who are going to be affected by the change and showing that you are still in the driver's seat. So allow people to know that from the very beginning, you're the one responsible. If you're not going to be responsible, these are the consequences. And when it's going off course, you are running and saying, we agreed to do this. This has not been done. This is falling aside. Who can help you? Do you mind delegating? Because one of the things that people want to take responsibility, but they don't want to do the work, isn't it? That's then they also want at the end to take the brownie points. So what we have seen is that change is not a one-person responsibility. There are all these people being involved and everybody must play their role. The drivers, the implementers, the enablers, and the recipients must be in the boat, and everybody must feedback on what is happening. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I realize that process of change points and actions. Yeah, thank you, Jane. Anybody else? Rispa, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes. Let me read feedback from Jean. Thank you, Catherine, for the wonderful session. You're welcome. I realize that the process action points we have taken us through are what we undergo in organization on a day-to-day basis. It's true. And what we need to do as HR professionals is to be fully involved in the steps implementation of the change process for productivity, being that is the only concern. Very true. These things that we have discussed today, they are not things that we do not know. It's now just being more deliberate on how we mainstream them in the organization. So thank you for that. It's things that we know, it's things that we have done in the past. We could do it here and here, but when we look at change, it's the only permanent thing, and it will continue happening. How do we do it systematically and everybody appreciates it? So thank you. Anybody else? Then we take back the meeting to you. Are you there? So I would like to thank each one of you for your participation. I know it's always very difficult to carve out 3 hours of your valuable time from a day, but I hope that it's been valuable for the last 2 days, yesterday and today. And tomorrow we are looking forward to being facilitated by another facilitator. Sorry, I forget their name. Please pardon me. And we are looking at creating great workplace attitudes. So I will be in the seminar tomorrow, and I hope that we can all come back and recap the March series in a big way. So best wishes for me, and God bless you. Have a good day. Take care. Then you can end the meeting from your end, please.
Hi.